Hi, I'm Andre Faust, and I'm bringing you another episode of drone flying from a newbie's perspective. This is the second part of high altitude exercise test flights, I guess. Anyway, yesterday yesterday the conditions were completely different than what they were today. Yesterday we had winds of 9 kilometers, and they were gusting up to 24 kilometers per hour. Today is quite a different story. Today the temperature is, this is unbelievable. This is February 21st, 2018, and it's plus 2 degrees, wind 0, gust 0. Well, there is a little bit of wind, but it's not recording on the weather speed, so it's showing up as 0. So I thought today would be an excellent time to try to do a height thing, but there is a certain limitation that I place myself. Even though the conditions were ideal, I tried to keep this little drone overhead, but I wanted to keep it large enough that I can tell the orientation, even though it's overhead. If it gets any further that it's just a black dot, I'll lose orientation, and there's where I'm going to get into trouble. But yesterday, I'm just going to do a quick little clip. Yesterday, here's the clip from yesterday. As you can see, it's moving all over the place. I'm having a really difficult time handling it, and it wasn't as much as the 9-kilometer winds. It was the gusts that were coming up quite quickly, like about every 30-40 seconds we're getting a gust of 24, 25 kilometer winds. So it made it very difficult to keep the craft stable. Now today is going to be a total different contrast. You're going to see that the flight's going to be a lot more stable. It won't be as jerky as compared to yesterday's flight. And like I say, today this weather is plus 2 degrees Celsius, 0 wind, 0 wind gusts. The only thing that I'd like to note at this time is that there is fog, and that gives us visibility of about 300 feet. And then things disappear. But just before I finish off, to give an idea of this little drone, right here we can see it quite clearly. I'm going to try to hold on to it so we can get a good picture. Right now I'm about 5 feet away from the camera, maybe 4 feet, and I'm going to back up. My driveway is 70 some feet, and you're going to quickly see how small this thing gets as we go in distances. So I'm not going to do too much talking because my voice will slowly dissipate as I get further back, and of course I'm looking at the camera, so hopefully I don't trip in my process of coming back. So right now I'm about 30 feet from the camera. So just back up again. Hopefully I'm still in the lens, and I'm up to the sidewalk. So that gives me probably 50 feet. Over. And I'm going to try to get out to see it. Hopefully I'm still within the field of view. Yep, I can't tell if I'm in the field. So once I cross the street, I am going to be close to 100 feet from the camera. Just to make sure that I don't walk right into the snowbank. So this is what this little guy looks like. 100 feet. So you can see where it does become a challenge. And that's just what you can't tell is you lose the ability of three-dimensional height because you have really no reference point to compare the drone. And plus it's just basically a dot. So there's no way that you can tell what the orientation is with that dot. So you get an appreciation of what it is. Now I'm bringing it up a little closer. I'm now at about 3 feet from the camera. So this little guy became a dot at 100 feet. So that gives you an appreciation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to now do my next clip, which will be today's flight, and you'll see the difference. it's going to be a lot more stable. I did get up to probably 125 to 150 feet. That's my cutoff. Again, it's on visibility. And like I say, I try to bring this, back home. Even though it's a $50 drone, I want to bring it back home every time. And I've had some close calls where I haven't. So here are today's clip of February 21st, 2018. Okay, we start right from the beginning. We're taking off from a manhole cover because it's nice and level, and it allows for the gyros to set. As you can see, our takeoff was quite smooth, and contrary to yesterday, things are pretty stable. I'm not jumping all over the place. I can do a little bit of panning there. I'm actually hovering, or I'm trying to hover, and it's probably about 50 feet above me, 40 to 50 feet. So it is very stable, and the gyros are all working properly. Now I'm looking towards I guess the southwest, and as you can see, the fog's in the background, and there's visibility is about 300 feet, and once again I'm maintaining pretty good, a pretty good hover. Now I'm yawning to the starboard, and it's just kind of a bit of a pan now. I'm going to try to swing over to my port side. Now back to the southern horizon, even though you can't see it because of the of the fog. And basically that fog starts right roughly where the river starts. What you can't see is the St. John River. It's just there, but with that, I mean, it's maintaining a pretty good, good hover. And the Hubsan, the model Hubsan X4 H107C doesn't have elevation control, so I'm doing this all manually. But as a reminder, for all practical purposes, there is no wind, either gust or so that makes life a lot easier. I'm now pointing towards the north. If you were to look at it geographically, do a little bit more of a pan. Again, I'm trying to keep things as smooth as possible. I'm trying to emulate, this altitude control, but it doesn't have it. I'm doing it manually. And what you're looking at there is, it's now called Riverside Drive, but it used to be the Trans-Canada. Now over yonder there, I don't know if you can see that tower. Now if I was close, that could interfere with my transmitter. Of course, that's something that's not good. Now when it flutters like that, this type, under these conditions, it's because I'm letting it free fall. It's either that I started to see it getting away on me, so I'm bringing it down to, almost eye level there. There's a handsome young dude there coming in for the attack. So that was a bit of we're doing a port side turn there now, and back up, and that's Ramey Street, to what you're looking at. And compared to the one of yesterday, I'm spending more time at heights. Yesterday I could only get there briefly and then come back down. And again, it was bizarre because at ground level there was hardly any wind at all. But once I got into any height at all, I was getting, the wind was more in the gust. It was just hard to handle. But this one here is going right to plan. But like I say, there's hardly any wind. For all practical purposes, 0 kilometers, both for wind and gust. Now I'm doing a starboard quick pan, and again trying to keep things, as smooth and level as possible. And for a little $50 drone, it's not doing too bad. Now the video quality is a little bit better than what the camera does, but that's because I've done post-production work on the video, so it's been altered a bit to get to maximize the quality. you know, sometimes I can do it, sometimes I can't. It all depends on how much video data I have. Now, you see that fire hydrant that we're going by at that spot in 2008, we had a flood, and there was over 4 feet of water over that fire hydrant, so that gives you an idea of how much water we can get during the freshet. But 2008 was an exception. Again, I'm working on, you know, control, port side yaw, and I don't know who that character is. Port side, and I'm getting interested in that snowbank. Something's amazing me about that snowbank. So I'm slowly crawling up. I'm not trying to do anything fast. Now you can see my elevation's nice and slow. And again, it's you know, working on you know, the fine motor controls to operate this drone. And we have our cables there. Again, I'm pointing kind of to the northeast direction, and maybe even more east and northeast, and I'm getting elevation again. And again, you know, it's smooth. I'm really happy with this flight. It's been the best so far, you know, without too much you know, flutter as what we see there. But like I say, that's happening is because I'm decelerating, or I'm coming down very, very quickly, and it just flutters. And you know, we're working on the fan. And actually, with the video enhancement that I've done, it's really sharpened it up a little bit better than what the original was. The original video, you know, it wasn't as sharp. It looked a little washed out, and at times a little bit mapped. Was even able to capture some of the natural colors of the trees. And what I'm doing is just you know, pan. So that pretty well wraps up this little flight exercise. So we're going to bring this to an end. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that you get some ideas if you're just new at flying drones. So I'm bringing it down. We're bringing it down. We're getting ready for, we have touchdown. So, well, that's a wrap-up for today. I'm Andre Faust, and I hope that I can give enough information, especially for people who are new, just getting into drone, whether you're going to be a hobbyist or you're going to go commercial. I use some pretty rigid criteria, even though, like I say, it's a small drone, but it's an ideal trainer because it's lightweight, and you're going to run into every possible worst-case scenario that you will with a big drone, except, you know, to give it some sense here. Okay, I had a 16-kilometer wind, which I operated a couple days ago. I couldn't get no height at all because it was just moving the drone around. Well, that 16-kilometer wind on this little drone, if you were to look at one of the bigger drones, let's say a Phantom 3, you know, something of that caliber, well, you may not experience that until you hit, you know, 40, 50 kilometers. So it's all scaled down. So it's really good to develop those skills with these little light guys. You know, treat it like it's a $2,000 drone, even though it's a $50 drone. And you know, in the upcoming years, if I don't lose anything major, you know that the strategy of learning on how to use a drone is correct. And just to close off, you'll notice that I didn't go over any houses, or I didn't go over the main highway where cars were driving by. And that's, you know, that's a common sense thing to do, but I believe it's also a regulatory thing. You cannot go over people's houses. You cannot fly over where there's people. You can't fly over vehicles, and it makes sense. If you know, the drone comes out of the sky, it could potentially hurt somebody, and especially with the larger ones. So until next time, you know, you know, keep those blades to the sky, not to the ground. Thanks.